going to teach you how to do this really cute, simple My Neighbor Totoro home decoration on canvas and accent it with a vinyl cut from the Cricut machine. Now don't freak out if you're not an experienced painter, trust me, neither am I, but this tutorial is simple enough for anybody to follow. Now in the beginning, I didn't have an exact idea of what I wanted my background to be, so I went ahead and set out the primary colors. But by the end of the tutorial, you'll notice I don't even use the red, so just go ahead and save yourself that paint. For this guy, I wanted to do a very light teal color, and when blending out a very light color, I'll go ahead and put down a white base layer on my canvas, and you'll see I dilute it with a little bit of water just because a brand new canvas tends to be very dry, and it'll take a good chunk of your paint. Now you're only going to need a little bit of this teal color because a little bit goes a long way. And while the white paint on my canvas is still wet, I went ahead and add little dollops of my teal and quickly blend it together. I also noticed that this project was a little bigger than I anticipated, so I switched to a larger brush and just continued with the layering process. Once I got it blended to my liking, I went ahead and went in with a smaller brush and added a little bit more of that concentrated dark teal color to the upper corners and the top of my canvas. For the bottom portion of our painting, I went ahead and mixed more of that teal color, but now I want to darken it up a bit, so I'm going to gradually add the smallest little bit of black. And make sure that you very gradually add that black paint, because a little bit of it goes a long way. Once you have the color to your liking, we're going to do the silhouette of some treetops on the bottom of our canvas. While the green was still wet, I went in with a little bit of black and did the same process of shading as we did on the upper part of our canvas. And again, once the colors were set, I went in with my smaller brush and started doing the detail of the tree branches. And there's no right or wrong way to do it because art is subjective, so go ahead and decorate the bottom of the canvas with as many trees as you see fit. And there, I think they're just about done, and I really like how they turned out, except take a good look at them now because we won't be seeing them again. When I paint, I can't sit still. And just when I think I got off scot-free, it rolled the tiniest bit of green onto the white sky. Of course it did. I thought this tutorial was going a little too smoothly. But we're not going to worry about that now. We're just going to let it dry and do its thing, and then once it dries, it'll be a lot easier to cover up with some white paint. Back to our trees. I'm going to mix more of that teal color, except this time I want it to be very light. Not as light as our sky, but definitely lighter than the trees on the bottom of our canvas. Once I tested the color and found it just the right shade, I went ahead and did the same method we did for the trees on the bottom to kind of do the trees in the middle ground. And it was here that I noticed it was going to be very difficult to bring that paint down without ruining the tops of our other trees. And I also wanted to add some shading, so eventually I had to make the decision to just disregard the tops of those trees, shade to my heart's content, and as soon as it dries, I will go over it and fix our bottom trees. Remember, we're working as the paint is still wet to make blending a little smoother. I went ahead and added some dark blue to those edges and blended that as best as I could before going in with a little bit of black and also doing that same method to kind of darken up those shadows just a bit more. And again, once it's done to your liking, you're going to go in with your smaller brush and add the details to the tops of those trees. And now that the sky is completely dry, I went ahead and fixed that little mistake we did when I was dancing with my paintbrush. And last but not least, I mixed more of my darker color and went in and fixed the tops of those trees that we originally liked so much and hoped that I liked them just as much on the second pass. While we let our canvas dry, I went ahead and did a rough sketch of Totoro, and here's the cleanup process on my Procreate app on my iPad. Then we're going to open up the Cricut application and upload our Totoro decal. Then we're going to scale him down to size so that he fits well within our canvas and move on over to our Cricut machine. Once we've got our decal nice and sliced, we're going to remove the vinyl from the Cricut mat. And don't forget to cover your Cricut mat to avoid collecting dust and hair and losing the stickiness. I'm also going to measure and cut the appropriate size of clear transfer tape, and then we can go ahead and start weeding our vinyl. I'm using the Cricut weeder. It looks kind of like a dentist tool. Now you'll notice there's a lot to remove, and sometimes that tool won't catch the edges as quickly. So what I like to do is bend a corner of the vinyl and slowly peel away. Now remember to go slow and take your time when peeling the vinyl, because sometimes the smaller details like Totoro's whiskers will sometimes get stuck as you're peeling away, and you want to make sure that every part of the design you want to keep is laying flatly on that contact sheet. Once your vinyl is weeded and ready for the transfer tape, you're going to go ahead and carefully apply the transfer tape to the very top. And I went ahead and used my Cricut scraper to go over the entire design and make sure it was completely stuck. Then we're ready to transfer this guy over to our canvas. And this just takes a lot of eyeballing, quite a bit of practice, but just try and place him as centered as you possibly can. Once he's laying flat, I went over him with the Cricut tool again to try and make sure the vinyl stuck, and I don't know whether it was the canvas or if I was just afraid to put too much pressure for fear of pulling back that contact tape and also pulling my paint with it, but Totoro just wasn't sticking. And I've never had a problem with this vinyl, so I think it was just because I was afraid to apply too much pressure. But you'll notice that some of the design actually did a really good job of holding on to the canvas. And there you have it. Go ahead and take a step back and admire your hard work. I actually really like how this piece turned out, and it's not too shabby for my first project. True, I could have painted on Totoro's face, but that would have required a lot more time and a lot more precision and detail. Plus, I really wanted to try and mix a few different mediums. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram if you do decide to tackle this craft for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time!